checkpoints happening across the city with the federal partners. There's also people that are getting stopped 24/7 with immigration enforcement. I think it's just a follow-up of how do you address those concerns that a parent who is dropping their kid off might be detained by immigration officials?
I think people who have that concern for themselves personally and for all of us who are concerned for them and their safety are making adjustments. Yep.
Madam Mayor and administration, I have 3 questions. First question, what latitude do teachers have to explore the political, social, and historic context of the situation in the classroom? Second question, what safeguards are in place to prevent an overzealous response to physical altercations on school grounds, given what we see currently with the federal infringement? And finally, we're going to take it to Ward 4. How is MPD preventing Officer Sutton and Lieutenant Zabaski and others who have been penalized in the past from repeating what they have done in terms of just their negative interactions with residents?
Okay, your first question, I'm sorry.
My first question is in regards to teachers. So what latitude do they have to explore?
So one thing I just emphasize to teachers that there's only one person in DC government authorized to do politics, and that's me. And teaching, however, they have the same latitude to instruct as they always have.
But as far as the curriculum, can someone speak to that?
There's no change to their curriculum.
But what is in place for them to talk about this in the current context, historically?
Let me ask the Chancellor how the public schools approach. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, for that question. So no changes to our curriculum. The same expectations that we've had previously. We have actually a new curriculum for math this year for our elementary age students. Teachers do incorporate current events in some courses. They still have the latitude to do that, but we expect teachers to adhere to our curriculum as written.
And as far as the physical altercations on campus, I've done reporting in the past. Students have complained about altercations on this campus. We wrote about BARD as well. What guarantee, or I guess what safeguards are in place to prevent an overzealous response from local forces as well as federal in response to students fighting on campus?
Yeah, so our staff is trained to intervene if there are any altercations on campus. We don't expect that. The educators, school administrators have been working hard over the summer to create an environment that is welcoming. And we equip students with tools to deal with issues as they come up. We've had a big emphasis on, for example, restorative justice strategies that have been proven to be effective. And if you look at violent acts among students in schools, in DCPS specifically, we've seen a decline in those events that are happening on our campuses. So we anticipate the response from administrators will be the same, and they'll be prepared for day 1 on Monday.
And in regards to the 2 officers that were pardoned, just very curious about their status, very curious, and this is my final question, of course, but for the time being.
So at their status, one is no longer a member of the Metropolitan Police Department, and as I've stated before, the other member of our police department is in a right now he's going through the appropriate training.
So which one's no longer a member, if you don't
mind?
The
lieutenant.
The lieutenant, thank you.
Thank you. I have a few questions. I'll try to get through them efficiently. Okay. First, for you, Mayor Bowser, and for you, Chief Smith, you were at 7D last night with Terry Cole and with Stephen Miller. What did you all discuss amongst each other and also with the officers there at 7D?
Well, I will say, and I won't be very specific about our discussion with the officers, but we did a lot of listening about concerns that they have about policing and making sure that they have the tools that they need to do their job. We listened to concerns that they have about the areas that they're policing and other feedback. And we listened to them about other ways that I can support them as their big boss. I think the chief would say similar. With regard to a short pull aside that we had with the federal officials, I would just say that we discussed shared priorities.
Just a couple more on immigration enforcement and the police department. We're hearing a bit that officers are looking for more guidance on how to be interacting with or in the same space when they are with ICE. And I want to bring up a specific example so we can to be specific here, I think one of the concerns we're hearing is that perhaps, right, routine moped enforcement that MPD has been focused on, right, like unregistered mopeds, things like that. Normally, before this federal surge and ICE agents accompanying MPD officers in certain spaces, that would have been that traffic violation or whatever it was, and then immigration enforcement would not be part of MPD officers doing that job. Now, how do you respond to the concern that those kinds of stops could be a pretext then for immigration enforcement and any officers' concerns about sort of how to behave and how to do that enforcement if they feel uncomfortable that it's inviting ICE?
I think that we are exploring any additional guidance that our officers need. We do know that the question was posed to the courts that hasn't ruled on that claim, and we continue to look for any final legal statement. We do know that the presidential executive order and subsequent orders address these issues. And we will always have resource constraints with MPD, and we want to make sure that our enforcement is focused on violence and violent offenders.
One follow-up there. Mayor Bowser, we've reported that you weren't aware of Chief Smith's executive order last week adjusting some of the guidance on immigration enforcement. What was your reaction when you saw that guidance? And Chief Smith, can you give some insight into what led you to issue that new order? What led to your decision to do that?
Sure, I'll turn to the chief in a moment. And it's not unusual that the chief has the authority to amend orders that she thinks are necessary. And I think her guidance from her legal department was that she was trying to give some more direction to the officers. So I think that's what led to it. But I think the bottom line for me is that what is governing here is likely the presidential executive order. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yep.
For the chief, the city went to court last week to make sure that you stay in control of the police department. I'm curious about your federal partners. Do you have any coordination with them at this point, as into moving resources from the FBI, from any of those federal partners that are in the city right now, and the surge that's come in? Do you have any control over where they're going, or are you only direct at this point?
Thank you. Paul, thank you for that question. So I think I want to, if you don't mind, allow me to take a step back. The federal partners came in on Thursday before last. I met with them this Sunday just to talk about a strategy and a way where we can make sure that resources are placed around our city. Number one, because we look at our data and our intelligence, and it drives where we see violent crime happening across our city. But we also have heard from many of you here in this room, as well as community members, about different patterns of crime in certain areas. And so what we wanted to do was to be collaborative in this approach, because it was an executive order. And so we have met with our federal partners. We've given them different areas across the city where we would like to see resources allocated. And to date, I will tell you, it's been a cohesive process. We speak every single day. I mean, things do happen in our city. Let's not be kind of oblivious to the fact that things do not happen. They do. But I have a responsibility to make sure that even if we didn't have a federal surge, that I have resources placed around the city. And again, my role right now is to ensure that I continue to drive down crime. We have the resources here, and we're going to utilize them to the best of our ability.
If I could follow up with two other things. Terry Cole we've been told that he's, whatever his position is, are you in constant contact with him, and is he suggesting ways that you police the city?
My relationship with Terry Cole has been very, very congenial. It's been very collaborative. He has actually asked me about different ways in which we can collaborate and have resources around the city. It is not contentious at all. I met with him yesterday. I met with him the day before. So we look forward to working with our partners in this space during this federal surge.
And then the last question I had is on the investigation we're hearing that the U.S. Attorney's Office is going to conduct into crime stats. Have you been contacted by the DOJ, and are you aware of any subpoenas that have been issued?
I have not been contacted, but I am aware that there may be or will be subpoenas issued. I don't know to whom, but that's all I know at this point.
Federal arrests.
Yes.
Yes. So not in the presence of the MPD.
I would get, I would
Are they
I would
making,
assume yes.
they're making presence without MPD presence. And two, is the MPD making arrests in the last 2 weeks that they would not have otherwise been making had this new environment we're in been, this federal surge hadn't been happening? Have they been directed to make arrests that they otherwise would not have been making?
No, I don't know. I mean, our officers are very well versed on DC law and DC code. With respect to this surge, let me say this also. We work with our federal partners all the time. We have a capital area regional task force where we have marshals, ATF, DEA, MPD embedded in those spaces. Our violent crime suppression division, same thing. We have federal officers engaged in executing search warrants around our city on a regular basis. This isn't anything new. I think what the difference is that there's just an enhanced presence. So the same types of arrests, the same types of contact, the same types, Operation Rad Rights, the operations that we continue to do on a daily basis, the new initiatives that we launched when I first came in here, we just have an enhanced presence in that space. And again, our goal is to ensure that we drive down crime while our partners are here, and we will continue to do that.
Okay, let's take a few more here. 1, 2, and I'm sorry, I think if we could just keep them to like one question, not 5 questions.
Okay, can I get 2? I just had a
Okay.
quick, for the chief, I know we've been asking all week, and we're told that you had been talking to federal partners about the agents having masks on. Have you gotten any clarity or direction about what they can?
I'll say is this, I've spent 20-something years on the federal side, and the concern is from some of our federal partners with the mask. I have not gotten clarity on it. Let me be clear about that. It's under DHS, if I'm not mistaken. But for certain type of backcountry, if you will, or different types of events, can have the ability to kind of cover their faces, and it's really about making sure that there are no threats coming to them once they've cleared the area. So in this particular case, I have no clear
In an urban environment, that there's no reason for any official to wear a mask. We believe that it's not a law enforcement or just people that are in the umbrella of the Justice Department. You don't see them doing that. I think this is a good question for the Congress to prohibit law enforcement agencies that are going to be working in an urban environment from wearing masks.
And just lastly for the
okay.
chief, sorry, I know we've been seeing videos, sorry, I can't see you, chief. For example, last night, members in Columbia Heights kind of heckling and yelling for federal agents and ICE to leave the area. We've seen that in other spots. So I'm just wondering if you have any concerns about how this is going to affect community relations that MPD is building with its community members, all of this.
And so I've had conversations specifically with our federal partners with regards to that. We've come a long way in establishing positive relationships with our community. And what I want to be able to do is to ensure our community that we are working with our federal partners in that space. We do a lot of community engagement with our federal partners. This isn't new. So we want to try to see how we can enhance that and build upon that. What we don't want is for community members to interfere and get involved in things that is a police-related matter.
This is either, thank you, Mayor, Josh Chapin from Channel 7. You had said the other day about the need for 500 more officers on the street. What are you doing at this point to sort of set the table for that? And in the interim, you've talked about this a little bit, but can the feds help? You have all these sort of trained law enforcement professionals, but maybe the...
I hope that's not one of you. No, I have a DC tag. Yes, so how can we tap into a federal surge is the way that we're thinking about it, and under what conditions would we want to tap into a federal surge? So we're answering those questions within.
And the 500 more officers, how do you set the table?
Well, I think that we want to be known as the place where everybody wants to work. There are some policy concerns among our current officers about the policing environment in the city. And we know that's going to require some changes to the law. So those are conversations I will have with members of the council, with police representatives as well. Yep.
Rebecca with 7 News. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Daniel. A quick question, if I could, to the school leaders. We have back to school starting next week. And with the surge in town, do you think having more of these federal agents out and about, could that make it safer for back to school? Could that complement safe passage?
As I already answered the question about our preparation for our kids, and we feel strongly that we're very prepared.
Okay. And if we can ask to, if the chief or if the mayor, the White House is saying there have been more than 400 arrests since the surge here. Do we know what percentage are MPD, and do we know how many of those MPD arrests have to do with immigration enforcement?
So, we've been talking about this quite a lot because we have ways that we introduce MPD data on weekly or monthly basis. And I think we're likely to stick with the way that we have been reporting. And I can't tell you exactly what they report or how they report or coordinate their number. I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're going to stick to how we report data and get it out more frequently.
Has the federal presence helped MPD, or has it made things a little bit more challenging?
So it's twofold, right? I hear from the officers on the street. Some of them have found it to be very helpful. Some people in community have found it to be very helpful. I think that the intent, what people have to understand, is that with an additional 500 more officers, you're going to have more arrests. You're going to have more traffic stops and those types of things. So we have to anticipate that because we have an influx of police presence.
If I can quick, the message from school leaders with back to school, what's your message to parents in light of everything happening?
Business as usual. We have prepared for this moment. We're ready to receive students. Our teachers, our educators, staff, school leaders been working hard this week in our pre-service week. You saw that earlier today. The energy in the room was very positive. That's going to carry into the first day and how we welcome our students back to campuses. You heard from the mayor. We're asking the community to clap in our students on the first day. I think surrounding our students in this first day of school is a great strategy, hopefully throughout the week. But we want our students to know that the schoolhouse continues to be the safest place for our young people, and we'll continue to hold it high.
If whoever hasn't asked the question, okay, you got that question and you'll have the last.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt Brown, Associated Press. The fire department said this morning that a person had to be extricated from a vehicle after a crash with a military vehicle of some sort. Who is responsible for this, and have you spoken with the administration about this situation?
I actually haven't gotten a readout on that collision yet, other than I know we had I believe one person transported for medical attention. so I can't really say more.
And then how has your relationship with the administration changed since the beginning of this federal crackdown, shall we say? Are you planning on being more conciliatory, more adversarial with President Trump and other federal officials?
My plan is to represent the district and to do what is, my plan is to represent the district and navigate us out of this emergency, the president's emergency. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. Andrew Espitalia with News Nation. Vice President J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth are about to speak at Union Station thanking the National Guard troops. Do you think placing the troops at major transit hubs or monuments is the most strategic deployment instead of, say, high crime areas?
I don't think the National Guard should be used for law enforcement. And I think calling men and women from their homes and their jobs and their families, they have to be used on their, on mission-specific items that benefit the nation. I don't think you have an armed militia in the nation's capital.
If you ever miss any of C-SPAN's coverage, you can find it anytime online at cspan.org. Videos of key hearings, debates, and other events feature markers that guide you to interesting and newsworthy highlights. These points of interest markers appear on the right-hand side of your screen when you hit play on select videos. This timeline tool makes it easy to quickly get an idea of what was debated and decided in Washington. Scroll through and spend a few minutes on C-SPAN's points of interest.
More from California now, where the state Senate also held a hearing on legislation to respond to redistricting efforts by Texas, where Republicans are in the majority in the legislature. Supporters of the California measure pointed out that voters would have a chance to decide on a new congressional map. Opponents cited the fact that the state already has an independent commission for redistricting. This segment from the hearing runs 50 minutes.
I am Senator Sabrina Cervantes, proud to serve as chair of the Senate Elections Committee on Constitutional Amendments. I want to begin by recognizing that we have many new faces in the room today, and that this hearing in decades. The eyes of the nation are on California. We are in a defining moment, a time of choosing. If California does not push back against President Trump's attacks, if Texas and other states follow the president's demands for more seats. This is the most transparent process in the nation. Drawing maps later, after the election, would mean little to no transparency and no direct voter approval. Let me be clear. Drawing maps later simply does not work with the election calendar. Anyone suggesting otherwise either hasn't looked at the deadlines or isn't being honest. Do we really want to delay the June primaries to September? Do we really want voters not knowing their candidate options? Our responsibility is to ensure that California stands as a firewall against the abuse of power. At the end of the day, our system of government is only as strong as our willingness to defend it. And today, that defense depends on us. With that, I want to thank everyone for attending today's hearing. We will now begin with the first file item, ACA 8. Senator Cabaldon, please approach. Begin when you are ready.
All right. This is good. Madam Chair, thank you so much, and to members of the committee and members of the public. And I know, Madam Chair, you've reported that more than 13,000 Californians have already weighed on this issue, and very much appreciate the opportunity to present one of the pieces of legislation that are necessary for the public to have the ability to chart their own course for California and vote on the maps. I'm here today to present on behalf of Speaker Rivas, Assembly Constitutional Amendment number 8, which, if enacted by the legislature, will go directly to a vote of the people in the November election. ACA 8 is intended to make possible the public vote that the chair just described, to make it possible for the first time in California history for California voters to draw their own maps at the ballot box. Not just the first in the country, but the first in California as well. Redistricting has a long history in the California Constitution. Since the 1920s, there have been ballot measures placed before the people of California to create independent commissions, to have redistricting done by judges, and over and over and over and over and over again from the 20s until the 2000s, the voters have overwhelmingly rejected them. It was in 2008, after rejecting independent commissions in 2005, 1989, 1984, 1994, repeatedly by 2-to-1 margins, that the voters finally, by the slightest margin that you can imagine. I was one of them who voted yes on the constitutional amendment in 2008 that passed with 50.8% of the vote, the narrowest of margins in order to amend our Constitution to create the Independent Redistricting Commission. That commission in the Constitution is charged with protecting communities of interest, fundamentally, with hearing from the public during the process of redistricting and incorporating their own views, not just big political views, but their own views about what their districts should be. So in a community like Rancho Cordova, just down the highway, where does Rancho Cordova belong in a district? When we talk about these districts, they are not just about big partisan issues. They are about which communities are able to work together to elect representatives that see them, that represent them. That's what the commission was set up to do. And so today we're asking through ACA 8 for the opportunity for the voters to enact the maps that are in separate legislation, but that are referenced directly in this constitutional amendment and therefore the ballot measure, that would enact the maps that the people that the commission itself would have enacted if it had been given the charge by the people of California to do what the chair just said. That is, if California voters came to the polls in November or today and said, we want maps that will fight back against Texas's efforts to rig the 2006 congressional election, to fight back against the efforts to undo the deep unpopularity that has been caused not just by H.R. 1 and the elimination of health care for millions of Californians, for the tax on our public universities, but also the unbridled enforcement actions and disappearances and kidnappings on our streets from ICE. The voters, not just of California, but of America, are sick and tired of it, and they want change. That's what democracy is about. You can either change your policies, you can defend your policies, but one option that is not before us in a democracy is that you can change your voters, that you can change the rules. And so fighting back is absolutely essential, and Californians want to fight. They recognize that as the largest state in the union, as the largest economy in the country, that we're obligated to stand up and protect our democracy. And that's what this ACA will allow us to do. And it does that by putting the maps directly before the voters, and it does that by giving the voters the transparent option over these next several months to evaluate them and to vote. It also protects the independent commission. And that process will return, just as it is in the Constitution today. Nothing changes. The Constitution simply provides today that every 10 years after the census, the commission is convened and it draws our district lines for the Congress based on its testimony from thousands and thousands and thousands of Californians, based on its own research, based on letters that are received from every big city and small town and hamlet across the state. And they will continue to do that after the next census when we draw the new lines. But I want to emphasize also that the lines that would be enacted by the voters under ACA 8 are the lines that the commission would have drawn if it could. How can we say that? How do we know that? Well, the map drawing, which was done with our partners in the congressional delegation, was done by reviewing the testimony, the files, the letters, the deliberations by the commission just a couple of years ago that were heard from, I know voters in my district, even in my own city, who urged the commission to put West Sacramento in one place or another, or voters in Winters who testified, please don't put us with Davis, or please do put us with Davis, that all of that testimony on the ground from Californians about what it meant to them in redistricting has been incorporated and heard in this process. That this constitutional amendment will allow voters to enact maps that divide fewer communities, that protect the Voting Rights Act. That's the essential. That's what the Constitution calls for. This is the most constitutionally oriented redistricting that we've ever done in California, and it is absolutely necessary. We will return to the Commission after that. The constitutional amendment here today before you guarantees that. And finally, I want to emphasize that the constitutional amendment assures that this is the right move for the right moment. It is triggered only if another state at the behest of the White House decides to try to cheat and rig the election. Texas is front and center. A couple of other states are looking at it as well. We have to be the last line of defense for our democracy in California. If those states stand down, then so will California. We didn't ask for this fight. They brought this fight to us, and California cannot stand down if other states are attempting to cheat and rig the election in 2006 to maintain Republican control of Congress. So I'm happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time, Madam Chair. We have two witnesses here with us. First is Jody Hicks from Planned Parenthood, and second is Sarah Sadwani.
Thank you. If the two support witnesses could approach, you each have 3 minutes. Begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I am Jody Hicks, the CEO and President of Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California, representing 7 affiliates and over 100 health centers throughout the state. And I'm here today in support, strong support of ACA 8 and California's response to President Trump, to Texas Republicans, and their plan to game the 2026 midterm elections and hold on to their party's power in Congress. And why Planned Parenthood in such strong support? I just want to remind this legislature, all of you here today, all of the strong work that you have done to expand reproductive health care and access to that care here in California, to really strengthen any policies that have been done since Roe was overturned. And 67% of Californians voted to enshrine reproductive freedom into the California Constitution and ensure that here in California we have access to reproductive health care. Despite that, this Congress, in that bill they love to call beautiful, defunded Planned Parenthood here in California in their attempt to take away access to reproductive health care, in their attempt to shut down our footprint over 100 health centers here in the state of California, despite the fact that 1 in 4 women rely on that care here in the state of Californians. And what they know is that, Congress members know, is that it is deeply unpopular to attack and undermine reproductive freedom. And when organizations like Planned Parenthood began talking to Californians, educating them on the impact of what just happened, they know, those members know, that they will be held accountable. So to put it simply, the president and Republicans, they recognize that their majority in Congress hangs in the balance. And their best chance to maintain power is to rig this election before the voters even have a chance to voice their reaction. ACA 8 is a proactive and principled response to undermine efforts that are happening across this country. The bill asks California voters to approve a policy that will push back on this unprecedented power grab and make it clear that we will only move forward with these efforts temporarily in response to another state's action first. Planned Parenthood's mission is to fight and protect and expand access to sexual and reproductive health care. And if we don't fight back, federal attacks on reproductive health care will only get worse. They'll continue to escalate, and a nationwide abortion ban is a possibility. As the country's leading reproductive freedom state, California has no choice but to pursue every opportunity to push back on this. It is the right thing to do, and I ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Good morning. My name is Sarah Sadwani. I'm a political science professor and a commissioner on the California Citizens Redistricting Commission. In addition to these roles, I serve a few other roles. I serve as a democracy fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School's Ash Center for Democratic Governance and Innovation. In Los Angeles, I've provided guidance to the LA City Council on the development of an independent redistricting commission for the city, which passed overwhelmingly in 2024 at the ballot box. And I also serve as an appointee of Supervisor Lindsay Horvath for the implementation of Measure G in Los Angeles County, which seeks to overhaul, the first overhaul in a century of LA County's governance structure. The through line through all of these hats that I wear is good governance and strengthening our democratic institutions. It's an honor for me to be here today. I'm glad it's happening today because next week I would be back in the classroom starting off the semester where I will be teaching Introduction to American Politics. Lecture 1 of Intro to American Politics for incoming undergraduate students is What is democracy? One of the basic principles of democracy, as I'm sure you all are aware, is that is of popular sovereignty, and that is of free and fair elections. That citizens must be able to choose their representatives in a process that is transparent, impartial, and equitable. Yet this principle, the very foundation of our democracy for our nation, has been repeatedly diminished by the actions of our president. In 2020, he called the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, asking him to find him 12,000 votes. Raffensperger, a member of the Republican Party, said no. He acted swiftly and decisively and stood up for free and fair elections for our nation. The president also publicly attacked Philadelphia Elections Commissioner Al Schmidt, leading to threats against Schmidt and his family, who had to go into hiding. Schmidt, also a Republican, refuted the president's claims of election fraud. He too stood up for free and fair elections in our nation. Our founding fathers put into place a federalist system as a check on national power. And in 2020, that federalist system held up with proud Americans like Raffensperger and Schmidt, who stood up for democracy and defended free and fair elections. Upholding the basic principles of democracy is a responsibility that Democrats and Republicans alike share. We can disagree on any given policy, and I think that's where my perspective here is somewhat different from the prior speakers. We take turns being humbled at the ballot box. That's a part of our democratic system. But the rules of the game, the core constitutional principles, should not be in dispute. Fast forwarding to today, President Trump has now called upon Texas Governor Greg Abbott to bend the rules of the game yet again in his favor and to find him 5 seats in Congress so that his agenda can be rubber stamped by the House of Representatives. But unlike Raffensperger and Schmidt, who stood up to the overreach of power, of executive power, Governor Abbott has gotten on his knees.
10 seconds.
These are extreme attacks on our core democratic principles, and these attacks must be met with decisive action. It brings me no joy to see the maps that we passed fairly by the commission to be tossed aside for this new set of maps. The commission is an excellent process. I'm happy to talk more about it in Q&A, but I do believe this is a necessary step in a much bigger battle to shore up free and fair elections in our nation. Thank you so much.
If we can now bring up the lead opposition witnesses, if you could approach. Good morning. Please begin when you're ready. You each have 3 minutes.
I'm Connie Archbold Robinson, independent from Oceanside, speaking also on behalf of my fellow rotating chairs of the First Citizens Redistricting Commission. Democrats Jean Raya of San Gabriel, Democrat Cynthia Dye of San Francisco, Republicans Jody Filkins-Weber of Riverside, and Peter Yao of Claremont. Commissioners are chosen to be impartial, to reflect the state's demographics, and to apply constitutional criteria to ensure fair electoral districts. We also cannot run for office in the districts that we draw. As you may remember, Californians voted 3 times against gerrymandering, placing independent redistricting in our Constitution. Last week's Citron Center poll confirms that Californians still support the CRC 2-to-1. YouGov's national poll shows furthermore that 3/4 of Americans think gerrymandering is unfair. Over 2/3 think it should be outright illegal. The current CRC, which we fully support, considered over 35,000 public comments as they created and finalized their maps, and they made many difficult trade-offs, as we did, to protect communities. This new map was developed by legislators and their consultants behind closed doors. The CRC was prohibited from considering partisan interests. This map had only that goal: safe seats. All the CRC draft maps were posted for 14 days to allow for thoughtful public input. These maps, as you know, just came out, and yet here we are voting. Why are you not hearing from more good governance organizations in this process today? Because it takes time to inform members, to engage in debate and dialogue, and to form coherent positions. This legislation is being touted as the only way to resist authoritarianism. This is a false choice. Thanks to the CRC, California has some of the country's most competitive districts. Twice as many of our current districts are up for grabs as this new partisan gerrymander would result in. It means developing candidates and platforms that speak to what voters care about and getting them to the polls. That's what we believe democracy looks like. Voters choosing their representatives and not the other way around. At a minimum, if this moves forward, we would strongly urge you to release the data and rationale for these lines, as all of the CRCs have modeled. And better yet, you could do mid-cycle redistricting in the California way. Instead of spending over $200 million on a special election, you could invest a fraction of that in the CRC and have them engage the public, create updated districts, and pass them with a cross-partisan supermajority vote. We urge you to serve your constituents by defending our independent process and rejecting this partisan gerrymandering. Thank you.
And members of the committee, my name is Jean Raya. I am a resident of San Gabriel, which is in Los Angeles County, and I was privileged to serve on the first independent commission in 2010. That commission was independent, was composed of a diverse array of citizens of California, and was an initiative brought to the ballot by good government advocacy groups who put voters first. The approval of that commission ended the backroom political gerrymandering that had characterized redistricting for decades. We drew new maps with full transparency, giving citizens access to the process through well over 100 public meetings and the means to submit written comments. Voters had the opportunity to describe their communities, their environment, their infrastructure, and their economy so they could be placed in a district that would give them a fair chance of electing an accountable representative. What were some of the results? In particular, the percentage of women in the legislature doubled. AAPI representation tripled. Black representation nearly doubled. Latinos advantaged by 8%. The California Commission set a gold standard such that the Harvard Kennedy School of Government awarded us a grant to travel to other states that were severely gerrymandered, where citizens were, like the people of California, trying to create independent commissions and repair their democracy. If only Texas could learn from California. Their current attempt to rig the 2026 election in favor of Republicans represents the basest self-interest of officials who are so fearful of losing their power, all they can think to do is cheat. Their determination to stack the congressional deck in their favor has prompted our governor to threaten this retaliatory mid-cycle redistricting. in an effort to elect more Democrats, but by sidelining the independent commission and holding a special election just this once. I'm a registered Democrat. I have always been a Democrat, and I would celebrate replacing any congressional member who has forgotten his or her oath to serve their constituents and protect the Constitution. But this can't be at the expense of the California Constitution nor the California voters who mandated fair, nonpartisan redistricting. Does the threat by Texas Republicans call for a retaliatory strike? We witness daily the chaos and mistrust created by revenge politics in Washington. That is not a model for the responsible government Californians deserve. It's not a model for spending millions of dollars on a gamble that different congressional districts will produce the sought-after change. Does the legislature want to risk losing incumbents in more competitive districts or fail to elect the magic number needed to win this electoral war? The maps presented and offered to voters are like a menu that only has steak, but you prefer fish. That's not a choice. Please reconsider and consider the comments of my colleague in ways that this might be done at least to protect the independent, transparent process that voters approved in 2008. Thank you. And I'm happy to remain for questions if.
Yes, if that would be wonderful if you all could remain for questions. We will now like to move forward with public testimony, public comment. If you are in support, please come into the hearing room, state your name, affiliation, and position only.
Madam Chair, members, Sarah Phlox, the California Federation of Labor Unions, in strong support of both of the bills.
Honorable Chair and members, Amy Heinscheich with 30 and Unite Here Local 11 in strong support of both bills. Thank you.
Tiffany Mock on behalf of CFT in support, also doing additional support for CTA. Thank you.
Julie Nielsen, National Union of Healthcare Workers, in support of both. Thank you.
Good morning, Genesis Gonzalez on behalf of Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis in support. Thank you.
Good morning, Kristen Heidelbach here on behalf of UFCW Western States Council in support.
Good morning, JP Hanna with the California Nurses Association in strong support. Thank you.
See no additional witnesses in support. We will now move to witnesses in opposition. Name, affiliation, position.
Denise Aguilar, co-founder of Freedom Angels, opposed. Tara Thornton, co-founder of Freedom Angels, opposed.
Sophia Karstens, Decentralize America, and on behalf of the LA County GOP, strongly opposed.
Horacio Gonzalez on behalf of California's Business Roundtable in opposition.
Nick Bussey, Roosevelt, California, and on the behalf of the families of veterans leaving California, fairness and good governance and fiscal responsibility, I oppose this.
Amber Arias, Calvary Chapel, Solano County, in strong opposition.
Catherine Lau, Tracy, California, in strong opposition.
Hi, Virginia Barbaro, native of California, Solano County resident, in complete opposition of this.
Twyla Nixon, Solano County resident, opposed to it.
Since we didn't get the opportunity to ask questions in an informational hearing, I'm going to come up here and say Tony Strickland, State Senator, opposed, because we need to keep the Citizens Redistricting Commission in the power of the people.
Senator Suzette Valadera is representing the 23rd Senate District, over 1 million voters, and also the 40 million voters in California, saying do not dilute their power, do not take their power away for politicians.
Thank you. Seeing no additional, would you like to approach, please?
Excuse me, Olivia Angeli from Elk Grove, strongly oppose.
Okay.
Bella Minor from Stockton, strongly oppose.
Renee Cepeda Blankenship from Fresno County, oppose.
Debbie Gonzalez, Fresno County, oppose.
Jose Carrillo, Riverside, California, a constituent of Sabrina Cervantes, and I strongly oppose.
My name is Angel Ariano. I'm from Pomona, and I oppose.
Hello, Shan Kay from Orange County, California, representing California Parents' Rights Act Now, and I oppose.
Maria Carrillo, Riverside County, constituent of Sabrina Cervantes, strongly oppose.
Emily Jones, resident of Shasta County, representing Home Tribe, and oppose.
Good morning, Jennifer Lee, representing Los Angeles. I strongly oppose.
Gina Bax, president for the Chico Evening Republican Woman. I completely oppose this. Thank you.
Florentina DeGennaro from the U.S. Center area, oppose.
Scott Kaufman, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, in opposition. Thank you.
Lance Christensen, Vice President of the California Policy Center. We oppose these redistricting schemes. Thank you.
Heather Maston, El Dorado County Republican Party, no.
Michael Friend, California native, retired state employee, strongly opposed.
Darcy Lucero, California native, strongly opposed.
Rika Shivitz, Orange County resident, and I strongly oppose.
Oscar Avila, Chino, California, with the California Movement, we strongly oppose.
David Bullock, a constituent of the 27th Senate District, representing Serving Family Values Alliance and Moms for Liberty. We are in opposition. Thank you.
Good morning. Assemblymember Tom Lackey, strong opposition.
Seeing no additional individuals who'd like to step and offer support or opposition, I will now turn it back to the committee members on the dais. We will start with Vice Chair Choi.
Thank you, Chair. Before I start asking questions, this being the public hearing, non-voting item, we have a couple of senators in the audience. Can we extend the invitation for them to sit on the dais asking some questions?
This is only for members of the committee for this bill hearing.
But
you may proceed with your questions or comments.
Okay, this is, as you have heard, a very important historic decision we are hearing, and the three different measures, a couple of them just for hearing, and the later last item will be voted upon. You can defend either side, but from my point of view, there are so many illegal and then also unethical elements in this attempt by changing this ACA 8 in the Constitution. And the reason is that we do have already chosen the so-called independent citizens redistricting commission that had been already appointed and only based upon 2020 election, 2020 the population census data, the districts have been already drawn, and that was from, to me, it was very decisive ballots rather than just a bare over 50% was 61% to my data was 61.3% voter approved of the commission. So I have a total trust on the election redistricting commission, and 10-year cycle comes very quickly, and the preparation for that and then also the whole process of hearing the citizens' input into the process before the final map has been drawn. It takes a lot of time, but this one is just for next 3 election cycles. In reaction as a retaliatory reaction to other states which you are condemning, and if you follow the same condemnable actions, then Californians should be condemned by other people. Why should we follow that same suit and we destroy our good model that we have chosen? You are talking about the defending the democracy. Which side is a better action to defend the fair election redistricting that has been fairly and approved by citizens, and that cycle is going to be only applied next 3 election cycles. So who can guarantee that? So with that statement, I have also some statements and then also some questions to ask to the, first of all, opposition witness. Governor Newsom has said that this legislation and the ballot measure have the explicit goal of electing more Democrats to Congress, right? That was his statement. Do you agree that the main purpose of redrawing the maps is to elect more Democrats to the House of Representatives?
Is that a question for the author?
No, to the opposition witness. So yes or no?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that is the stated purpose, is to elect more Democrats.
Okay. Now that leaves me.
May I add something to this? In all due fairness, none of us were. Pardon?
Through the chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. May I just add something briefly? Because none of us were actually, as citizen commissioners, involved in this process, this would be within your power to request for the rationale and the data to be released so that we have a clear understanding. With the commissions, it was very public and transparent what the drivers were. But this is what has been publicly said, is that it is to elect more Democrats.
Okay. Thank you. And then I'm going to ask the Senator Cabaldon, because you are right now speaking on behalf of the author. It is my understanding that these new maps only take effect. You stated the answer to that, but I want to reaffirm. If some of the states redistricts, in other words, our all effort, even if this passes, will be nullified?
That's correct, Senator. If these only become effective at any stage in this process if another state adopts a new congressional district map that isn't required by a court order.
So obviously, I'm the only Republican member among the 5 members of this election committee and the constitutional amendment. Vote will be taken place, but I am kind of worried that my single vote is not going to defend or win. So we'll see how it goes. But if it passes and the ACA 8 is placed in the ballot measure, and let's suppose that the citizens approve of that, even then, can you stop it?
Yes. So the terms of the constitutional amendment itself that the voters will vote on is what includes the trigger. And so the trigger, if the voters approve it and the trigger isn't polled, then it doesn't take effect.
So that will be conditioned that the other states will redistrict.
Yes, and that's directly in the measure, this measure that the people of California would vote upon themselves.
Oh, okay. And then I will move on to, would that mean that these maps will go into effect next year, even though no state redistricting this year? So you said that is not the case. It's not going to trigger. Correct?
That's correct. So the plain language of the bills and what the voters will vote on is that these will become operative only if Texas, Florida, or another state adopts a new congressional district map that takes effect after August 1st, 2025 and before January 1st, 2031, unless that redistricting is required by a court order in another state.
Oh, okay. Then how long does this condition last? If Texas decides to do the mid-decade redistricting because of the court order in 2 years, do these maps automatically take effect?
I see the committee chief consultant has wanted to provide a clarification.
No, you already answered this.
Okay. Yeah, so the period that this applies to is August 1st of this year until January 1st of 2031. After that point, then the commission process that is in the current Constitution and is undisturbed by this measure would recommence after the conclusion of the census.
Okay, now this leads to next question. Is this a condition triggered if a Democrat run state redistricts? In other words, whichever city among the state that may be. Results in a net gainable Democratic congressional seats.
As I understand, and the committee staff or others want to interject, that's fine. But that none of the other states that have independent commissions, that those commissions are not authorized to do mid-decade redistricting either, just as ours is not. Okay. So that hypothetical cannot happen in the absence of a constitutional amendment in other states.
Okay. Under current law, the legislature cannot draw the lines, draw them for the purpose of partisan gerrymandering, or draw them mid-decade. Shouldn't we be asking the people's permission first to do these things rather than drawing the lines and then asking the voters to approve our unconditional unconstitutional actions, in other words, placing cart before the horse?
Well, Senator, like you, I served as a mayor for quite a long time, and my experience has been that voters want us to get to the point, and sending them 2 or 3 different stages when we all know what it is that we're attempting to accomplish does not advance democracy. That in this case, the voters will have all their choices at once to vote on. The authorization in the Constitution and the maps themselves. So they're able to vote on the abstract question with the actual maps that they can choose and look at themselves and evaluate them according to those criteria. The Constitution, let's be clear, the Constitution doesn't say what you said about the legislature. What it says is that the legislature can't intervene in the decennial, in the every 10-year process. When the commission is convened after the census and it draws the maps according to that process, the legislature may not intervene in that process to do the things that you said or to impose a party purpose on it. The Constitution is silent with respect to mid-decade redistricting, and this measure allows the people to decide if, when, and how that will proceed.
We have other committee members who'd like to ask questions and comments. Senator Choi, we can move right back to you. Let me allow
just one more question.
Let me come back to you. Let me allow Senator Umberg.
If he only has one more question,
would you defer?
I'll defer.
Okay, go ahead. Vice Chair Choi, you may ask your question.
Yeah, are the voters being given to opportunity to see each congressional map on the ballot, as well as opportunity directly approve each congressional map as promised by the governor?
Yes, the voters have already the opportunity to see those maps. And this is the first time ever. So there was a decade, I don't remember the year, when the voters voted in a referendum on district maps previously, once before. And I remember being a voter in that case, and I thought, how do I get this map? How do I know? How do I make sense of it? This time, there is an interactive map that has been up since last week already for those maps to be available. And I want to emphasize to this point, because we also heard it in the opposition testimony. In the commission's normal process, there is a 14-day period by which those maps, before they are voted on by the commission, are available for public inspection. In this case, the maps have been published. They have been on this committee's website since Friday, and they will be available for 78 days for public inspection, and they are available in the most user-friendly form, which is an interactive web-based map that all Californians are used to being able to inspect, as well in every other form possible, including the 300-page bill that we had last night for those who love to look at census tracts. But these are transparent maps so that voters can zoom in, see exactly where they live, what their communities of interest are, and evaluate them on their own when they cast their votes whether or not to approve these maps in November.
Thank you. Senator Umberg.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to begin by congratulating my colleague from Irvine for your courage. As I understood what you said, you condemn what they're doing in Texas. And I also condemn what they're doing in Texas. And by extension, if you're condemning what they're doing in Texas, I assume that you condemn the President of the United States for, in essence, ordering the folks in Texas to redraw their maps mid-decade. And I think it's a bold move for a Republican basically to condemn both the process in Texas as well as the President of the United States. So I congratulate you for your courage.
What I meant was let's don't become the bad one. Just follow the bad actors. If you are condemning them, I didn't criticize or evaluate their actions because you labeled it also. In the beginning, in the presentation, he labeled it in such a way. I took that word, it was not my judgment or statement.
Okay, well, let me retract. If you didn't think that what they're doing in Texas is inappropriate, then I'd retract what you said. I thought you had actually condemned what they did in Texas and also condemned, by extension, the President of the United States. Let me direct some questions to Ms. Robinson and Ms. Raya. First of all, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service on the Redistricting Commission. I realize it was in 2010 and 2011, and a very, very important process, and I think we can all agree that that process is absolutely essential. And I assume, that, Ms. Robinson, I read what you said in 2011 that, or actually it wasn't what you said, it was the president of La Sierra College said that you were committed to service, fairness, and bettering the community. And I assume that that's one of the reasons you applied to be on the commission. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, I believe most commissioners share those lofty goals.
Yes. Well, I thank you. I thank you. And Ms. Raya, I think you said back in 2011, we must do all we can do to ensure that citizens maintain faith in representative democracy. Do you remember saying that in 2011?
I do, and I've said it many times since.
And you believe that today?
I do.
Yeah. And I assume that both of you applied to be on the commission because you wanted to improve the quality of life of Californians, that ultimately you thought you were bettering the community. Is that right, Ms. Robinson?
I assume that's also what drove you to your service.
Right.
And yes, I think that's unilateral.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Same thing with you, Ms. Raya?
Of course.
Yes. I assume you didn't do it so you could sell watches, right? or you could, for example, sell cryptocurrency or get a free airplane. You didn't do it for any of those reasons. You came to public service to improve the community. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Raya, you think so?
Came to serve, yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Impact. Do you agree with that today still?
Yes.
And do you agree with the statement that not only that grave impact may impact the state in which the redistricting is done improperly, but the entire nation? Do you agree with that?
In my capacity as both a commissioner and as someone who was supported by the Harvard Center to travel across the country and support many other states and advocates in those states to create other models in their states, absolutely. I've seen both the impact at the local level, at the state level, and across the nation in other states. I don't know if you'd want to add anything on that?
No, I would share that, absolutely. The impact can be seen in many ways, I think, including by the statistics that I cited, what I think is improved representation in our legislature as a result of the districts that have been drawn in the last 2 decades.
I completely agree with your statement that what happens in other states can have a grave impact on the entire nation. And I assume both of you are following what's going on in Texas. Are you following that, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And do you approve of what's going on in Texas?
I do not approve of what's going on in Texas, and I am a commissioner and a resident in California, and so that is my primary focus today.
And Ms. Raya, do you approve what's going on in Texas?
I don't know that anyone other than the Republicans in Texas and the White House approve of what's going on, but I would have to repeat what Ms. Robinson has said, that we're concerned about our state right now.
All right. And going back to my earlier statement that whatever goes on in Texas actually impacts us here in California. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir. We are all part of the same country.
Right. No, I completely agree. And one of the founders, James Madison, I'm going to quote him here, said, "The accumulation of all power, legislative, executive, and judiciary in the same hands may justly be pronounced as the very definition of tyranny." So do you agree with me that basically that the Congress of the United States has, in essence, approved everything that this president has proposed? Do you agree with that, Ms. Robinson?
I'm not here to comment on Texas. I am here to comment on California. And there are ways that California's elected officials can have the national impact that we want and that we need through using the competitive districts that have been established through the citizen-approved independent commission.
So let me ask Ms. Raya, do you understand, let me ask you if you share my understanding that the Republican members of the California delegation have basically voted with the president on all things that the president has proposed that impact California. Do you agree with me on that supposition, Ms. Raya?
I would say that that the results we're seeing in Washington are happening for many reasons. Some of that is perhaps how elected officials are actively responding to what this president wants. It may also be because there are not enough other strong voices to counter it. It may also be because the courts seem to have been sidelined to some extent in upholding the separation of powers, upholding the rule of law. I think it's a complex issue that is really not what this proposed action in California is about. This action is about doing a partisan redistricting absolutely in conflict with California law. That's what I can speak to. I'm not an expert on national politics. I don't know that anybody really cares what my opinion is on national politics. So again, I really would prefer that we're directing the conversation to what is going to happen here in California.
And I agree with you 100% that we should focus on what's happening in California and what impacts the Congress action or inaction, whether they're supine or actually active as a check on the executive, how it impacts California. But I think you agree with me that the Congress has not been a check on the president whatsoever, including our members, including our Republican members in the House of Representatives. I think you agreed with me on that. Is that right?
I would say that Congress has not acted responsibly in general.
All right. So in terms, and I read the quote from James Madison, that basically we no longer have an effective check on the President of the United States. Do you understand that the President of the United States has, in essence, ordered Texas to reconfigure their congressional seats to add 5 Republican seats? Do you remember the president saying that, Ms. Raya?
I do.
You do. And how about you, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, I do.
And you understand that the balance of power in the House of Representatives is very narrowly divided. Is that right?
Yes.
Ms. Raya? Okay. Ms. Raya says, and Ms. Robinson, yes. So you also, I want to get your views on what the president has done here in California. Are you familiar with AmeriCorps? Are you familiar with AmeriCorps, Ms. Raya?
Yes.
You are. And Ms. Robinson, you're familiar with AmeriCorps?
Yes.
You understand that the president has basically, by his action, eliminated 5,600 AmeriCorps public service workers and $60 million. Do you think that's a detriment to California, Ms. Robinson?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Ms. Raya?
Of course.
And also, I assume you're familiar with ICE raids here in California right now. Are you familiar with that, Ms. Robinson?
Absolutely.
And Ms. Raya?
Yes.
And that, in fact, 71% of those who have been arrested do not have criminal convictions. There's been 57,861 people detained, and 71% of those had no criminal convictions. Do you think that's appropriate, Ms. Robinson?
Absolutely not.
No? Ms. Raya, how about you? You don't think that's appropriate? You understand that that's basically the initiative of the President of the United States to basically do that? Do you understand that, Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Do you understand that Congress has been absolutely supine in terms of acting as a check on the President of the United States?
Absolutely.
And that the only check that really exists today is the Congress of the United States, at least theoretically. You know what? I don't know how long you've, Ms. Raya, how long have you lived here in California?
My entire life.
All right. Well, I'm not going to guess how old you are. I'll tell you how old I am. I'm 69 years old. I came to California to go to UCLA a bunch of years ago. And when I came here, the air quality was horrible, was absolutely horrible. And I don't know about you, Ms. Robinson, if you've lived here long enough to remember how horrible the air quality was. And you understand the President of the United States has said California can no longer enact its own emissions standards, that we now have to defer to Alabama and Mississippi in terms of our clean air. Ms. Raya, do you think that's good for California's quality of life?
I think we have a lot of quality of life issues to address, and I think one way to address them in California is to have representatives elected by the people who understand and represent the communities of interest that voters come from.
So you agree with me that the air quality is actually improved in California? You've been here your whole life, actually improved in California. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, it's improved.
All right. And that by reversing our emission standards that we're going to basically go back to where we were 50 years ago. Do you agree with me on that?
I would guess that that's so, not a scientist either. So.
And you're familiar with the $1 billion that the president has tried to extort from UCLA? Does that improve the quality of life here in California, you think, Ms. Robinson?
No, sir.
No. Ms. Raya?
No.
And the same thing with the $584 million research grants that the president is trying to basically quash here in California. I think you agree with me that it does not add to the quality of life of Californians. Is that right? Yeah, I think both of you are shaking. Ms. Robinson, you agree with me, right?
I think there's more we're in agreement than disagreement.
Right.
I think what we're here to speak on is the means to get to the end. And in my humble opinion, not as an elected official, not as a national political expert, but someone who is an engaged citizen, an engaged voter, and has been a volunteer commissioner who skipped my children's first days of school to actually be here and express my voice to all of you that we have competitive districts in California. We have excellent electeds and candidates in the pipeline across partisan lines. I am speaking as an independent who absolutely can address these issues without resorting to a partisan gerrymander that has no checks and balances, such as we suggested, including being fully transparent with the data that was used to develop these lines, empowering the very successful current seated Citizens Redistricting Commission to be able to play a role in that process and to continue building on the trust and faith that has been created not just with Californians, but as I went and traveled and trained and educated people across the country, our citizens in other parts of the country who are being held hostage by politicians who do not represent their interests have been looking to California as the alternative, as the model. If we gut the great work that we have been doing there, then not only do we lose our credibility, those efforts actually get stalled and get reversed. That's what I'm here to express. I understand that you are in a difficult position as our elected officials and as our leaders. There are no easy answers to any of this.
Madam Chair,
Umberg, I'd like to just take a moment to see if there's any members who want to provide any comment or
Can I just ask one final, or at least one interim final question?
Madam Chair, point of order.
What is your point of order?
Listening to cross-examining the witnesses as if they are sitting here in defense of the Donald Trump. We are discussing the bill right now, ACA 8, and we need to address to the bill content, not defending Trump administration policies. This is not a quotable rules, and cross-examining just like attorneys are doing. And I object that I hope that the chair will stop his cross-examining style of questioning.
Point well taken. We will allow one more question at the moment, and then I will turn to Senator Limon. If she has any questions. If not, I will jump in. Thank you.
Let me just ask the two of us. Do you think we in California should do what we can within the bounds of the law to dissuade Texas from engaging in what I think you both characterize as inappropriate activity? Ms. Raya, we'll start with you. Do you think we should do in California what we can within the bounds of the law to dissuade Texas from engaging in their gerrymandering?
That's a point of order again. It is right now. How can they say that Texas is they are doing whatever they think they are right, but we are not defending Texas or Trump administration.
Senator Choi, we will maintain decorum.
So Chair ruled the point also well taken, and he keeps on continuing.
We will. Let me allow Senator Umberg to ask the question and allow.
Now that's the last question. Do you think? Let me. I'll first ask Ms. Raya, then Ms. Robinson. Do you think we in California should do what we can within the bounds of the law to dissuade Texas from engaging in the partisan gerrymandering that I think they're about to do? Ms. Raya?
What is happening in Texas is reprehensible, and I admire the Texas Democrats who have resisted. But I think those people, those elected representatives in Texas, are capable of resolving this issue for Texas. We're concerned about resolving a similar issue in California.
Ms. Robinson, do you think we should do what we can within the bounds of the law to dissuade Texas from engaging in this partisan gerrymandering?
I have spent the last 15 years of my life promoting independent redistricting, both in California and nationally.
Aye, Daly. No, Durazo. Aye, Gonzalez. Aye, Grayson. Aye, Grove. No, Hurtado. Aye, Jones. Laird. Aye, Limon. Aye, McGuire. Aye, McNerney. Aye, Menjivar. Aye, Nilo. No. Ochoa Bog. No. Padilla. Aye. Perez. Aye. Reyes. Aye. Richardson. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Ciarto. No. Smallwood Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Strickland. No. Umberg. Aye. Valadares. No. Wahab. Aye. Weber Pearson. Aye. Wiener. Aye.
Ayes.
Jones, no.
Ayes 30. Noes 9. Joint rules are suspended. Senator Valladares, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to remove AB 1214 from the consent file at the request of the author.
The desk will note. Okay. Not seeing any other members wishing to remove anything from the consent file, we will now move to consideration of the daily file. We will begin with second reading file. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 482 with amendments, 1255 with amendments, 1003 with amendments, 696 with amendments.
Second reading will be deemed read. We will now move to Assembly third reading, file item 226, AB 604 by Senator Gonzalez. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 604 by Assemblymember Aguilar Curry, and Act relating to redistricting and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Senator Gonzalez, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President and Senators. I rise today as a proud joint author to present AB 604, which is a reasonable and rational response to the anti-democratic actions of the Republican Party as they attempt to rig our congressional elections. AB 604 contains the census block data that will define the temporary congressional districts that we are being forced to adopt through the actions of the President and his complicit party leaders. Just yesterday, the Texas House passed an aggressively partisan map giving President Trump the gerrymander he requested to produce 5 new Republican seats in the U.S. House next year. These undemocratic actions are a betrayal to the values of our great nation and to the people we all swore to represent, defend, and protect. Unlike Texas's actions, the decision to approve the temporary maps outlined in this bill will ultimately be in the hands of California voters. This bill gives voters a choice to keep the current districts or adopt maps to counter the actions of MAGA extremists in Texas who are obediently working to tip the scales for President Trump. Despite the minority party's hypocrisy and their attempts to confuse the narrative with sound bites and tweets, the truth is clear, that the maps are